Namo. Thanks so much for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The fifth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I vow to cultivate good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society, by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I will ingest only items that preserve peace, well-being, and joy, in my body, in my consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of my family and society. I'm determined not to use alcohol or any other items that contain toxins, such as certain TV programs, magazines, books, films, and conversations. I'm aware that to damage my body or my consciousness with these poisons is to betray my ancestors, my parents, my society, and future generations. I will work to transform violence, fear, anger, and confusion in myself and in society by practicing a diet for myself and for society. I understand that a proper diet is crucial for self-transformation and the transformation of society. For our Dharma lessons, we've been reading Ajahn Munindo's book, Unexpected Freedom. Today we're reading a section called Free to See Clearly. An image that's often given to help us develop the right understanding of practice is that of a vast empty room with an open window through which a shaft of light is passing. In the shaft of light we can see specks of dust which, although floating everywhere and in the empty space, are highlighted in the light. The shaft of light is the light of attention. The vast empty space is the nature of the mind. The specks of dust are the sensory experiences of sight, sounds, smells, taste, touches, and mental impressions. The dust floats through empty space, and if there's right awareness, right mindfulness, we see it in perspective. Even if it's gold dust, we can't afford to get it into our eyes, or become blinded by it. If it's foul, objectionable dust, we don't get lost in our reactions to that either. We know the dust for what it really is. This is part of the function of mindfulness and clear comprehension, to know things the way they really are, to see the relativity of things, to see things in perspective. After hearing this advice, we may ask what use this teaching is with respect to the bigger issues of the world. No doubt it is very subtle and good, but how does it all relate to the fact that such and such a country might be building up for another war with yet another foreign country? What good does it do to know that sensory experiences are specks of dust floating through the empty space of the mind? Well, this practice can have a very positive effect on these wider issues. Thinking about a build-up for a war can produce strong emotional responses. Not only might we feel inner anxiety, fear, or indignation, but we might also have all sorts of thoughts directed outwards about the various leaders of the countries involved. I'm sure we all know how enraging the subject of politics can be. If we get caught up in such thoughts and feel righteous, we find ourselves convinced by them. We shouldn't go to war, we think. War is bad, and generosity, kindness, and peace is good. If we don't have these feelings with mindfulness and right understanding, then we lose perspective. If we get caught up in them, we become them, and then our emotional reactions tend to be excessive. Our thoughts, words, and outward behavior are determined by our stance, and our lack of mindfulness leads to wrong action and wrong speech. It goes like this: wrong view, wrong thought, wrong speech, wrong action. I mean wrong here, not in the moral sense, but from the perspective of reality. When things are like this, our passionate nature functions in service to fixed and limited views, not in service to sensitivity and understanding. If there is a cultivation of rightly informed mindfulness, we may continue to feel indignant without any harm being caused to ourselves or others. We can feel what we feel about the very real risk that there may be a war in the near future. We can think whatever thoughts come into our head about this or that leader. We can think what we think and feel what we feel. But we know these feelings and thoughts as thoughts and feelings. We don't lose ourselves in reactions. We stay in a position of optimum responsibility. We're not trying to stop feeling things or thinking things. We might find in reflecting on the possibility of war that we think so-and-so is a rogue and a monster. We should just nuke the guy, get rid of him, get him off the planet, and we should execute all those terrorists. Then we catch a glimpse of ourselves and react with, oh my goodness, how could I be having such thoughts? We then start feeling guilty and think, I shouldn't be having thoughts about wanting to harm other people. If there is right mindfulness, then even if we start having biased, one-sided thoughts or the guilty thoughts that come afterwards, we can let them be without interfering with them. By experiencing them in such a manner, we can come to understand their nature and what lies behind them. It is certainly not okay to act on them and promote war or hatred, but when those thoughts arise, we don't have to be upset by them. We don't have to blindly react and try to block them off. In fact, we can learn from them. If they are received with mature awareness, they teach us how to empathize with those we might otherwise call our enemy. One of the greatest teachings I have ever heard is that there is only one thing that we need to be afraid of, and that is the length of time it takes for us to be mindful. I encountered this teaching in my first year as a monk during a period of particularly intense struggle. Instantly, it made tremendously good sense to me. I believed it, I trusted it, and I still do. It doesn't matter what passes through that empty space. The nature of those specks of dust is that they are all specks of dust. Right understanding, right speech, and right action will come, so long as we remember to become rightly aware of our experience. May all beings be well, may all beings be happy, may all beings be peaceful. Namo Adida Phat. Thanks so much for joining me today.